welcome everybody to the Berlinale Talents session this afternoon about the theme trust, and we call it blind trust dialogues in images and space. And please give a warm welcome to the panelists today. Especially I would like to introduce you to Verena von Stackelberg. She will be your host, your moderator of the session, and she's a member of the Berlinale, of the selection committee as well, and an initiator and founder of a community, a very well-known community cinema here in Berlin, Neukölln. So warm applause. And I give you the microphone.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the nice invitation. I'm very happy to be here with two very special guests, Josephine Decker and Sturla Brandth Grøvlen. I'm just going to begin with the jury statement that the film won in Sundance. It won the IndieWire. What was the name of the award exactly?
This was a critics award that was just given by the IndieWire.
Okay, the IndieWire Critics Award. So this is it. So I haven't practiced reading it. I'll do it now. It's one of the best shot Sundance films since director Josephine Decker's 2018 Sundance film Madeline's Madeline, cinematographer Ashley Connor. The interior of horror, author Shirley Jackson's Elisabeth Moss off-campus Bennington home are so textured that I was convinced for the first half of the film it was shot on film stock, when in fact it was shot digitally with an ARRI...
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I think we need another chair.
Yes, this is a bad broken chair.
So.
This is already a very exciting talk.
There's some energy in the space here. So, I'm sorry, maybe I was too boring. I will try and make it a little bit more exciting. So the interiors of horror author Shirley Jackson's Bennington home are so textured that I was convinced for the first half of the film it was shot on film stock, when in fact it was shot digitally with an ARRI Mini and old Balta lens. Cinematographer Sturla Brandth Grøvlen, who also had Wendy at this year's Sundance, often uses the home's windows to motivate his light, but the nuance and evocative nature of the lighting schemes creates a psychological and internal sense of space. Combined with the film's top-notch production and costume design, the look of the film goes beyond an incredible sense of being at a specific time and place, but perfectly tracks the 19-year-old house guests and the audience's fascination with Jackson as we are pulled into her world. Conversely, Grøvlen shoots exteriors with crispness that creates a contrast between Jackson's story world, the reality of her interior world, and life outside her home. One of the things that's most exciting about Shirley is how Decker maintains a distinctive improvisational sense of staging and camera movement and framing while working with her first tightly written and structured script, screenwriter Sarah Gubbins, adaptation of Susan Scarf's Merrill's novel. Grøvlen's ability to light and create such thick atmosphere, but keeps things loose and inventive so that Decker could remain visually improvisational, is vital to the film's distinctive storytelling. It's beautiful, and it perfectly wraps up this trajectory that you, Josephine, have as a filmmaker who is not scared of going into very intuitive, improvisational ways of finding your story, sometimes only finding the story in the edit itself, also reshooting. And you, Sturla, who shot one take, 140-minute long film, Victoria, worked with Rams, Wendy, Last and First Man. I'm assuming the work that you have done before was a little bit more pre-planned than perhaps what you have experienced in the work with Josephine. If I may just assume, please correct me if I'm wrong. But in this sense, a warm welcome to both of you. I've kind of introduced you with a few highlights. You have a lot more films under your belt, not just films, but also music videos and different things. And Josephine, you were here first with Batter on the Ledge and Though Was Mild and Lovely in 2014. And it was a double whopper because both films were premiered in Forum in the same year, so you've kind of made an impression as an extremely productive filmmaker, and you came back a couple of years ago with Madeleine's Madeleine. You also work in the School of Making Thinking. If we have time, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more what it is, but just in a nutshell, it's a nomadic investigation into collaborative practice, so you really fit this talents theme very well. Without further ado, I would like to first of all ask the audience a question, which is, how many of you saw Shirley today?
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's really good to know. Great. Because we were worried that it was too tightly not planned, but then that's great. And how many of you are filmmakers? Okay. Do you have any
How
more
many
questions?
DPs? Wow, awesome, very cool. How many editors? Do you have any editors? Okay, cool. Very nice, great.
So, first of all, before we go too far away from Shirley Jackson, I would really like to start with how you both associated with her as a character and why it was such an interesting project for both of you. So,
well, I think I think it's great. It's so nice that I've gotten to speak at I think one Berlinale Talents before, and then or maybe two, and it was anyway just very fun. But it's very exciting that I get to talk to you because Sturla is an incredible collaborator, and we had so much fun preparing for and shooting this film. And I think partly that was because we were. We made it really hard for ourselves, so we were constantly having to figure things out again and again on set. And I think one of the things that was exciting about the script and about Shirley as a character, so the film is really it's kind of about a young woman's point of view on Shirley. You enter the film through a different character. This young woman who's coming to live with Shirley, and then over the course of the film, you get inside of Shirley's mind. And when I read the script, I remember thinking that's hard. It's hard to enter the film with one character and then go into the subjective experience of a different character. We spend the first 30 minutes of the movie with Shirley as very much someone that we're seeing from the outside, and so that was going to be a challenge but that's the kind of thing I think that makes a project worth doing, is when a script really works and it's like great start to finish and it reads like a good short story, it's almost boring to make that movie because you're like, well, I can already see it in my head, what would I do? But I think that the problem of that was something that was exciting to me about the film, and also these two female main characters were very complex, very strange and manipulative of each other and the men that they're with, and so there was a lot to dig into in terms of how do you represent their subconscious and the way that they're seeing each other and their world around them. There's another aspect to the film, which is Shirley is a writer, and her process of writing is inside the movie, so at times you go into sort of seeing what she's imagining in her writing. So it meant that there were many layers of reality. There was like the point of view of the young woman entering the film. There was Shirley's perspective. Then there was the way that the kind of fantasy fiction that Shirley's creating. And then we also thought of the film as like that there was a perspective, like an omniscient perspective, almost the perspective of the house, we called it, that sort of held the way of seeing all of the characters. But it meant that as we were collaborating, we got mired in how are we going to shoot. We wanted to shoot all these things differently, but it was quite a journey of figuring out that. So it's just exciting to be here to talk to you about it a little bit. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, just maybe add that the different kind of concepts we came up with it kind of accumulated, and it became bigger and bigger. And I feel like your way of looking at things are a bit more abstract and kind of very intuitive. So coming up with words for these concepts was an interesting exercise. I think we had smush and float and and I just before the talk I read through our old sort of email correspondence in the beginning of our collaboration, and there was like this one sentence that I highlighted was that where you written to me like, if we can make this film feel like you're being smushed between Shirley Jackson's breasts, that would be amazing. and that yeah, and I think that also those kind of sentences was handed to me often, you know, which made it very interesting to work visually on the film.
Had you met in person at that stage, or was it just
only via Skype? Yeah.
Shirley had shot a beautiful movie in Iceland. What is the name of that film? Heartstone.
Yes.
And that, it's such a gorgeous film. I really recommend seeing it. And I was like, this man is amazing, and it feels very in the moment. It's mostly it's all handheld, I think. So I really hired him because I was like in love with the way this film looked. Then I found out they had 4 months of prep. You had like 4 months of prep for this movie that just looks like they showed up. I mean, it doesn't look like they just showed up and shot it because it's gorgeous, and it's like, how did they do that? But I thought that was so exciting because usually films in the States, films that are handheld are often, partly they're handheld. Sometimes it's the look, but often it's because, we have a week of prep and nobody can afford a dolly, you know what I mean? And I think there was something so exciting about the idea of preparing really, really deeply to shoot something in an intimate way that was about preparation not just of the technical world, but of the emotional conversation between the camera and the actors. And so I think there was something really exciting about working with Sturla too, because it was clear that was a big part of his approach as DP, was not just a technical approach, but a conversation and intimacy with the performances. That was something that he was interested in developing over time, and making sure that the rehearsal isn't just technical, it's about trust with the actors.
True, and it's, I remember first day of shooting with Elisabeth Moss, which, you know, a big movie star and can be a little bit intimidating, and you know, our kind of handheld smush concepts or whatever it was called was like also meaning that the camera had a will of its own, so not just focusing on the actors, but also, you know, kind of, you know, going intuitively and looking at some hands doing something, or over to the fireplace or something. And I don't think we had informed Lizzie well enough about this concept. And I remember she probably came over to you and said, he should really not, you know, go away from my close-up when I'm delivering my lines. But then we kind of, you know, we had to, you know, that kind of broke the ice, and we had to, and we started, you know, collaborating, and I think she understood more what we wanted to do after that. But it's such a very important thing that, yeah, that the collaboration with me as with holding the camera and being inches from the actors, that there's a trust there, and that there's a little dance.
Yeah, that was, I remember the conversation that I did have with Lizzie of, you know, she was like, I'm doing all this work, and then I look over and he's filming the, you know, the oven. and it was very sweet, but also I think it was actually a few days into the shoot, and then we had a conversation around how there was a way that I like to work with the actors of inviting them to really express their free will, and we would do a lot of the blocking in the mornings. All the crew would get mad at me, except for Sturla, because I would take too long to block with the actors. We didn't have much rehearsal ahead of the shoot, which I think in Europe, vaguely I understand that you guys get to prep your movies. In America, no, but there is no prep. There's like, especially not with actors, especially famous actors. And so we were kind of launched into the film, and we had a lot of it's a very dialogue-driven movie. Dialogue can be so, you know, it can be very boring to watch, and I didn't want that. I wanted dialogue that moved, that was kind of a dance, and I think with Scorsese has some great line about that, you know, dialogue is music. And so we were looking at, you know, I really wanted the actors to motivate movement, and to not just, if it's a dialogue scene, not just sit people down and shoot close up, but let the dialogue move around the room and, you know, express different things with, you know, when are the characters close together, when are they far apart, how does that change over the course of the scene? And, but that takes time. It's hard to develop a blocking that feels intuitive, that goes, so every morning I would take way too long rehearsing the scenes, and I would really invite the actors to build the blocking. You know, we would try different things. The first few times it's sort of like let them do what feels natural, then it's sort of like, okay, you seem too close in this section, maybe we need to like spread you out across the room, what can motivate you to cross? And so we were doing a lot of that kind of exploration, and so I gave them a lot of free rein in a way to follow their instincts. And I remember that conversation with Lizzie was really like, the way that we had been working together with her performance was like, you know, to allow her to really follow her instincts. And I remember saying like, you're doing such great work, and if I tie Sturla to your face, he doesn't get to follow his instincts the way that, you know, this movie kind of wants to be about instinct. And so I was just like, I have to set him free so that his performance can be as good as yours. And if his performance isn't as good as yours, then we're not going to use the take, even if your take is the best. You know, so it was kind of about, there's a performance in the camera as well. And so I had to kind of like get her comfortable with the fact that we were going to unleash Sturla a little bit to shoot, you know, the tile floor sometimes. So, yeah. Should we look at one of the?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's a good moment to already show a clip to kind of illustrate a little bit with an example of what we're talking about. But also I wanted to ask, was there only one camera, or did you also have like a second camera backup?
We only had one camera. Yeah, we shot. There was a few kind of longer dinner scenes where I was kind of fighting for just shooting with one camera, and maybe that wasn't the best idea, taking the time we were giving to shoot the scenes. But but I think we managed in the end, but ended up shooting the whole film on one camera.
Okay, so which clip?
Number one, the clip number one, if you guys have it. This is. It was fun to watch these because this is when we really found this movie was really hard to shoot because, like I said, there were so many different realities, and but this is, I feel like we've really found our groove by this time of the shoot, even if we were a little at times still like, oh God, how are we going to approach this? These two scenes were really interesting because there's a whole section of the film that starts this kind of subplot about this older professor and this younger guy who's been living with him, who's asking to do these lectures. But most of the film is about these two women, and they're the main characters of the whole film. And Sturla and I, this section launches, and it's about these two men. And all of a sudden, there's scenes right after this one. It's a scene with just the two men, and the other women aren't in it at all. And we were like, how do we shoot these scenes? Because we've seen the whole movie through the eyes of our two female leads. And it's this challenging thing that sometimes I feel like our writer for the film is a playwright. I think as a filmmaker, when I'm writing a scene, it's always like the main character's got to be in that scene somehow, watching from a doorway or whatever it is. And so I remember we were just like, we got so behind one day because we spent like an hour arguing over how we were going to shoot this first scene, that then we ran out of time to shoot the first scene. And then we were so grateful because on the way home that night, we kind of had a revelation, like we have to focus the camera on Rose. Rose needs to be in the scene. Rose is the one in the foreground dropping the eggs. And then we realized, like, if we're with her, if it's really being with her, and these two guys are having this conversation more in the background, there's a way that we can kind of enter the scene through the main character's perspective, and it maybe won't feel so bizarre that suddenly we're just like dropped into the men's story in the movie. And so, but as you can see, those two scenes back to back are actually two very different shooting styles. So one is locked down, it's this long take, starts in a fairly close up, but on a long lens, and then you get wider and wider as we come and sort of, I wonder if we should show, anyway, you can sort of, by the end of the shot, you can see that there's this other woman, Rose is in the foreground. And then the very next scene, it's all handheld. It's very much a visceral camera that's moving with the actors. And I think those two scenes are really fun to watch back to back because there's the Shirley and Stanley had this very intimate rock of a relationship that is kind of the bedrock of the movie. And so when we're with them, you really want to feel the energy of their relationship, whereas Stanley's relationship with Fred in that first scene, it's very formal, and it's and so it's exciting to see those. I don't know if you want to add something to
No, I agree. It's very two different styles of shooting, and it has to do with the energy in the scenes as well. And it's obviously the scene, the last scene with Stanley and Shirley, he's fuming, his energy is up, so it makes sense to have that sort of aggressive camera almost. But I seem to remember also that we started somewhere else with that scene and then kind of worked our way to this sort of more handheld or very moving and dynamic camera. And I seem to remember you were also very sad that we ran out of time and we can only do like 2 takes like that. But I think it's all from one take in that scene ended up in the film. And what I think is interesting with the first scene is that the kind of the slow zoom out, you go wider and kind of reveal Rose and the eggs. Mm-hmm. You hear it on the sound. It says a lot about her psychology, like her state of being in that scene. And it's not about the 2 men, even though we're giving information that we need to know. And I think that was the difficult part for us to kind of figure out how can we pass on this information, but also tell something interesting about Rose and where she's at. And I can't remember where the eggs came from, but that was definitely not scripted.
No, the eggs weren't in the, breaking the eggs wasn't in the script, but Rose has just had this kind of opening in her relationship with Shirley in the movie. They've had this very weird encounter in the woods, and so she's kind of unleashed. And so yeah, I don't know where the eggs came from. I think we were desperately trying to figure out that scene, and I was like, I got it. Rose will just be in the foreground rolling the eggs back and forth, and then she'll just break them. And that's fun. The editor that I work with, and for you guys, the editors, you're like the I don't want to say you're the real writers of the movie, because a movie isn't very good without a good script, but for me, a lot of the writing happens in the edit, and it's exciting. I know that the editor I was working with said that he's always interested in how there's something on the script and then there's something that gets filmed, and that with certain directors, it can be very different. You know, that there's whole blocking and stuff like dropping eggs on the floor that's not necessarily in the script, but that moment felt like a really important moment for understanding like what's going on inside of Rose, and she's kind of done with this household life that she's had. So
yeah, and I think it's representative of the way we worked. Like a lot of ideas came on set, but also in the car to and from set. You know, how are we gonna deal with today's problems? And then we kind of solved a lot in the car on the way.
Yes. It was a long car ride. We lived like 45 minutes from set, so it was a long journey, which is good. Hour and a half every day with the DP with no one else is a nice time.
Yeah, that's the only time we really got exclusively, yeah.
So that's maybe a good piece of advice to all filmmakers, that you should have a long car ride with your cinematographer when you...
Sleep is also important.
Yeah.
So, should we show, like, because we have kind of the clip of the original idea of that scene, so we...
Yeah, let's do it.
So that's from the laptop.
So yeah, that was the original concept. You know, it's so nice when you get to shoot that.
I can see why it's got edited.
But you know, it's so sad. The first half, you know, it's like, you know, you don't like. I'm like, God, I wish we hadn't edited the first half. Is so beautiful, like when it lands on how it slowly reveals Rose, but then, you know, one of the editors was very insistent that we had to see Rose earlier, and I gave in. But it
creates a sort of a dance, I think, because you have her earlier, so there's more of emotion happening that I
Oh, you liked it? Okay, so great. Yeah. Verena likes it, so now I feel good about it again. I have this urge to just ask if we have lots more to talk about. If there's any questions that are coming up about some of the things that we've talked about so far, we have lots more that we're planning to talk through. But I don't know if there's anyone that's like, I got a burning question about. No? Yes, sure.
There's a microphone. Just 1 second, sorry.
Oh, well, look.
And you can throw the microphone back. It's in a kind of bouncy cubicle. Won't break.
Okay, hi. I'm a DP. I'm part of Talents. I really loved what you showed us, and I just wanted to know how premeditated the zooms were. I recently did a short film where a lot of the approach was handheld, and there was no shot list. It was based basically on the blocking of the actors, and during the shoot, like on the first day, I suggested a zoom to the director, and he loved it. And we basically built from then on the language of handheld and zoom. So I was just wondering how much premeditation there was in your film language with this particular kind of a choreography with camera and actors. Okay, yeah.
Do you want to start?
How much premeditation, like how much preparation? Was it something that you decided to do on set, like a certain choreography with the actors? Or there was a conversation before, like on location, seeing, you know, the space, the geography, and knowing the dialogue, you're like, we can do this kind of zoom, or is it just all in the moment, you know, deciding about the move?
I think this particular clip, the idea with the zoom came very late because we were kind of struggling with that scene, and but we had established this concept of this kind of slow zoom as one of, you know, the more, one of our concepts that was maybe more bound in psychology somehow. And also for a lot of the exteriors, we did some slow zooms, and I remember it. I think the idea of that concept came from that you'd watched Eyes Wide Shut, and you were really into the Steadicam movements. Oh, yes. But there's also a lot of slow zooms in that, and I think I took that out of it. You know, after we had to go from 15 Steadicam days to 3. Yeah. But a lot of it was planned because that was a concept that was more controllable. It wasn't like, I guess a lot of the scenes weren't that, you know, too much movement. Or I think we did some shots of Stanley on a porch, and yeah.
There's not a ton of zooms in the movie, actually. This is one, I think we used it for these things that were a bit, like a lot of them, the stuff with our main 2 characters was more handheld, but we did actually, in a way this was a very last minute concept, but it was built through a lot. We'd spent 3 weeks in that house, so we knew the space really well, and we knew that there was this gorgeous porch that we hadn't really used much that you could see from the kitchen, and I think I don't think if we hadn't spent as long as we'd spent in the house with that space, I don't know that we would have come to that concept. So, you know, it's that kind of thing where you have a last minute idea, but I think everything that we'd been building, this was one of the last days we shot in the house. So we'd spent enough time in that space working with the actors to know that that kind of thing would work. Yeah.
Are there actually any other sort of images or references that you were discussing before you started the shoot, or with like bouncing back any kind of like majorly important scenes from other films or photographers or paintings?
Good question.
I think we touched on a few, but I also think that we didn't want to go into a sort of period film trap. That we wanted it to, I think you said you didn't want it to be so formal and obvious that we were doing a period film, and therefore we didn't watch too many references from, at least from the time period.
Blue
Velvet was a reference.
Yeah, Blue Velvet in terms of just that kind of world and how much you can do in a frame. Maybe it's good to show the mood board. Yeah. Do you want to show that? Because I had developed a mood board. What's what I used to pitch on the movie and get the job. And I always think those kinds of things are nice to see. Like I love seeing other people's mood boards because I'm like, how does anyone get a job? But I think this one seemed to go over pretty well. And it's, maybe you can start it at the top and then we'll just scroll through it. This is, and we'll just roll through this fast. It's just to give you guys a sense of like, it's okay if I just roll it through. I wonder if can we press play? Is there like a play on this, or maybe not? Okay, so this is, we'll just play it. We'll just go like this. So, yeah, this is before we shot the movie. Was like, how do you see the house? How do we want to feel the characters? Like this shot, you basically saw this shot. I mean, it's kind of cool because it's not like we went back and looked at this a few times, but like that shot of Shirley in the bed, was very inspired. This is Sally Mann, a photographer, great photographer. So this was just like,
no, it's great because there's so many idea in this mood board or lookbook. And I feel like a lot of times it's like that you have all these ideas that you want to put in the movie, and half of it never ends up being anything.
Yes.
But there's still this DNA of those ideas when you create the movie. So, and I was just saying to Josephine before that when I was sent this mood board, I kind of realized, that I wasn't dealing with a normal person.
This is a lot of concepts. But sometimes I get in trouble because I'll have these ideas, about the movie and how I'm like, oh, this would be so great and this will work really well, and then, but the reality can be different. And we had these like 6 different concepts for shooting the movie. So this was, just to kind of speak to this a little bit. So we had this idea of like woman in front of these geometrical patterns, woman in front of these more formless patterns, and then integrating the two so that it kind of took both of the worlds that we'd been living in and put them together. I don't know that we did this all that much in the movie, but I think in terms of the like variety of forms in the image, we got to do a few. The house was really exciting. Our production designer was great, and she gave us a lot to work with in the house. So this was our main character, Rose, how she kind of comes into the world and the way that she sees, and things are a bit more simply framed. And then we had because it was kind of these 2 ways of seeing. And then we had Shirley, and so.
But that actually stuck in the film, I feel like, discovered in pieces.
Yeah, that's true.
From the first time you see her, she's always kind of hidden behind some, obstruction.
Yes, that's true.
So there's a bunch of ideas, and like I said, not everything makes it into the film, but it pushes you in that direction subconsciously. I think helps you understand the film.
And one of the other things that kind of happened that we were talking about is there were a lot of things that we abandoned, that like we started shooting the film partly handheld and partly locked down on these different, on a tripod. And then as the film went along, we were like, this locked down style only really works for outside of the house and not so much for inside of the house. Inside of the house, we wanted the immediacy of the handheld camera work. And so we really threw away a lot of what we'd shot inside the house because we sort of realized over the course of filming that that it was not gonna, we found something that worked, and so we had to let go of a lot of the other thing that we'd spent a lot of time on, but I think that was exciting about working with Sturla, is that we were down to like abandoned things. And I remember even, there's a climax of the movie, happens it happens on a cliff edge, and I remember when we were shooting on the cliff, we were shooting on Steadicam, and we were like, we sort of got halfway through shooting this like cliff scene on the Steadicam, and we were like, this isn't working, it doesn't look like the rest of the film, what are we gonna do? This is terrible. We were like, should we just not shoot on a Steadicam? We'd hired the Steadicam operator, everyone's like attached to these giant like harnesses so they don't fall off the cliff. But it was cool that even in those moments that we actually kept that, and it worked out fine. But but it was always good that we were ready to like be like, oh, our idea sucks, and we need to abandon the idea and move forward. Yeah.
I think it's important, yeah, when you realize that your idea sucks, that you have to be ready to admit that.
Yes. Right, exactly. Anyway, so these are just, then now we're just getting into character. This is not as important. Community. That's the collective, right? That's the whole. This is what you guys have been doing all week, right? Sawing off each other's heads. Anyway, this is way more conceptual and did not end up in the movie at all. We definitely did not shoot anything that looks like this. Yeah. So anyway, I can probably put this away now. Oh, actually, the thing that might be, this was actually stuff that we did use. Like we have a guy walking down the street, like holding a paper bag in his mouth, and I think it's really eerie. And it's amazing how photographs can really give you a lot of great ideas for blocking and for unconventional ways of seeing. And Shirley Jackson's stories, they have these weird, the townspeople in her stories are always super weird and creepy and eerie and like normal, but in the most scary way. So it was fun to kind of try to find images that would get that across. And then when we were shooting, like also try to look for ways of portraying people that was a little off.
That's another one, right?
Oh yeah.
The guy with
like scars on his face, yeah. And then we had one of the things that let's see. There's some, at the end, there was one of these, in the end, everyone's fine. Fine. So yeah, there's a very creepy kind of ending to the movie, and we just wanted, it was fun to look for images that would kind of like bring that across. And I remember us going back to the blurry image with the in focus background, although that didn't end up in the movie, but I think it helped us solve a few problems sometimes. So, yeah. How do I find the images? Oh my God, there used to be a great website called Found. It was like Found, and now it's shut down. So it's much harder now. But I think I looked. I knew I wanted a very female energy in the look of the film, and so I looked at a lot of female artists. There's a lot of female photographers here, and then some of it was like there was female. Abstractionists, I think they're called. I have to look at what the title of that movement was. But in the 40s, when Shirley was writing, Shirley Jackson, and our film is set in the 1940s, I was looking at this like a lot of the female artists and painters of that time, and there was some really cool kind of like abstract and sensual, I guess you could say, paintings that emerged. I think it's the abstractionists. So, and kind of, it's just, it's a lot of going down internet rabbit holes of trying to find a certain kind of image, and it leads you to another kind of image, and it's sort of just searching out what feels right. I don't spend a lot of time trying to pull references from movies, because I think movies are such a small percentage of what can be done with the visual image, and there's some great films, but I always feel like if I'm gonna emulate another movie, then I'm going to look like, then you're just making a movie that looks like other movies. It always feels more exciting to try to emulate painting or sculpture, or, something that's kind of impossible to emulate, but then it pushes you in a different direction. So, that's a great question. But yeah, trying to stay close to the source material in terms of like looking in that era and looking towards the voices that are similar to the voice in the film. Yeah. You can ask.
1 second, just for the mic, maybe. Did you have the cube?
Oh, the cube. Is it literally supposed to be thrown?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you're supposed to throw the cube. That's exciting.
No, it's just because I saw that you had a very small slide with the editing comments, and I just thought you were saying anything about those.
Oh yeah, did I have an editing? Look, collective. There's the word collective. Editing styles. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I think that you were just wondering about this weird slide.
Yeah, no, I just thinking what inspiration was.
Well, there was definitely, ironically, this is pretty accurate to how the movie turned out. there's, you know, Rosemary's Baby has these really hard cuts at the ends of scenes, and I always found that really evocative, and I noticed in our film that there's hard cuts, and also the sound designer made them even harder. Sometimes I was like, is this too much? Is it too jarring? But I kind of wanted the film to be leaping forward in the narrative, and so we were not so worried about like time as much as we were about energy. So we kind of let the movie we'd always try to keep the movie obviously moving forward. Something else that I work a lot with my editor on is developing sequences. So he always says, like, you have to open a question. The audience has to be asking that question in a deeper and deeper way for like a 7 to 10 minute sequence. And then at the end of those 7 to 10 minutes, like, you want a new question to have emerged. And so I think, like, you know, towards the beginning of the film, it's sort of like, will Rose feel comfortable in this house, you know? And then it's like, will Rose ever get close to Shirley? And then it's like, what happens if Rose does get close to Shirley? And then it's like, now is Rose gonna like kill her husband? Or, you know, it kind of like deepening. Every time you answered that question, then the next question emerges. So those were sort of the way that my editor and I talk a lot in terms of the sequence and making sure that the tension is always moving forward. And then there was this kind of other narrative of Shirley's sort of, she's using this muse of Rose to write her book. And so there's these sequences that are a bit of this like unconscious, seamless editing, which is her, I guess maybe what's inside of her brain as she's processing like how to write her novel. And so what we tried to do is have her writing be a direct reflection of her relationship with Rose. And I think the other thing that felt cool about discovering that in the edit was that that's another one of those like life lessons. So we made a movie about a writer. In the original script, there wasn't a real dramatization of her writing. You saw her writing in a few scenes, and you heard her talk about writing, but you didn't feel the process of her writing. And it was really important for the end of the film that we understood how her writing process was going. So actually one of my editors was like, I think we should include voiceover and hear Elisabeth Moss, like playing Shirley, hear her thinking out the story that she's writing. And so there are sections in the film where you hear her writing or trying to write, or sometimes not being very inspired, and sometimes
swearing, revising.
Yes, yeah. And it's interesting because it helps you see where she's at with the story, but it also often helps you see where she's at with her muse, this Rose, because at times she's like she wants to reject her, and the storytelling isn't going so well. And then at times when she's really integrated with Rose, you can feel that the story is getting very deep and rich, and those kind of editing sequences were really fun to do because they were more magical and musical. And you know, yeah, and I think a lot of the way I think in terms of editing is very musical, and so it's subconscious to some degree. So that was a way that we approached the editing. That was a lot bigger answer than you asked for.
No, thank you. This is very interesting. Do you have another clip you want to?
Should we show the? What do you want to show the dance party?
Yeah. I think the party scene, which is the number 2. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so the party scene, number 2.
Wow. So that was a really fun, crazy day shooting that party, and we and you can see there's one of those you can hear Shirley writing that we were talking about with the editing, and sort of like she's writing and you see what Rose is doing, and you sort of see that I guess there's a conversation between her writing and Rose's reality. And then, but that party was so funny because that space for the party was, we lost like all of our locations. The only location that we had ahead of time was really the house, which was great because we shot in Shirley's house for about 3 weeks, but then every other location that we tech scouted ended up falling through for some reason. So this party we saw for maybe 5 minutes one day after shoot, and we were like, sure, I think that works, you know, because we didn't get to scout it ahead of the shoot. So we had to shoot it, we scouted it during the shoot, and then so when we got in that space, we had never really gotten to like talk about where is everyone going to be in the space and where are we going to shoot from. And so I think it was, and it's our biggest day. I mean, there's like, whatever, 200 people in those scenes. So we were really overwhelmed and like kind of panicking, I think, about like, how are we going to get we had so much material. It was like 10 or 11 pages that we needed to get in like a day and a half. And so we ended up, Sturla ended up bringing up Breaking the Waves. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
You're right. I mean, it's overwhelming when you have all these, script pages and you have to kind of get through it and then start thinking about like coverage. Then you have to get Shirley, and then we need that reaction, and then we need this and that, and then you just, suddenly you're lost and you look at your shot list and it's like 30 pages long or something, and you just go, oh, how are we gonna get through this? And so my strategy in those situations is really to think outside the box or come up with some sort of concepts that makes your life a little bit easier, that you can just cling to a specific concept. And I think I just watched Breaking the Waves and kind of this kind of swish pans and just feeling like you're just being thrown in there and just recording what's happening was kind of our lifeline that I presented that we could stick to. And I think, just throwing yourself in there without having too many specific ideas helped us on kind of solving that scene. And then, of course, there's this kind of vision that was more planned. And we for the whole film, we more or less did like a 360 lighting. So we had the flexibility to change things and to come up with new ideas as we went along.
Yeah, so, and I think that there was this thing about wanting, every time we shoot a party, it's very hard to shoot a party and make it feel like a party when it's, when you have a bunch of background actors who, especially in upstate New York, not everyone is even that comfortable acting. So you have to make it feel like a party, but then you have to do the same thing a ton of times in a row. And so we just tried to really like let it feel like a party, and almost, I mean, there were times when I think the actors didn't know where the camera was, and they were just running the scene, and
the shot where she's kind of holding the wine and the glass, it's just something just happened, because she was just picking it up, and then, the people were dancing around, and it just happened, I think.
Yeah, and all that choreography of the kind of like almost like conga line, that was also not planned ahead of time, but Stanley Michael, who plays Stanley, Michael Stuhlbarg, was just like, in the scene started a line, and people were like, what should we do? We were like, just do whatever you would do, at a real party. And so like half the party joined the conga line. It was really, and so it made it hopefully feel energetic and like it was really fun, Yeah.
There was a question over there, and I think we have to throw the cube there, and then there. Otherwise, it's too far.
Good call.
Or like that. Thank you.
Do that. Yeah.
That was very
Thanks.
nice of you. Just looking at the scene, I was just wondering, I was thinking of the first camera assistant or focus puller. Do you actually, in those improvised camera dance scenes, do that yourself, or do you leave also the creativity to where to pull the focus to in those very moving scenes to the first AC, or how do you work with that?
I kind of leave it up to the first AC to figure it out. No, obviously we have a lot of conversation, like we talk about the scene and what's important and for what moments we want to catch, and I think at that point we're so deep into the shoot that it was a focus puller I hadn't worked with before, but then you kind of get in sync and you learn, he learns my movements and I kind of senses when he's on his way to go to the background, whatever, and then kind of follow up. So it becomes a sort of rhythmical collaboration after a while. And Tom was amazing. He was great.
It's also worth saying, it's funny to sit here and talk to you guys about our process, because I also am always extraordinarily impressed with how amazing you are, you're as artists. So thank you for listening to us talk about our process, because I could sit here and listen to any of you guys talk about what you do, and it'd be very fascinating. We were gonna kind of, when originally asked for this, to do this talk, Florian was like, maybe we'll do a little bit of movement. And because normally when I've come before, I've led more maybe like movement, performance-oriented workshops. So one of the things that we were talking about doing, maybe now, if everyone's comfortable with it, is one of the things that I'm really curious about, and we didn't exactly do this in Shirley, but I think we approached it, was I think when we shoot a film, we always think it has to look good, right? Like you want to see, like, you know, you have to look and you have to frame things right, and sometimes that's very beautiful, and sometimes it also, the control takes away a level of like maybe the feeling. And so I had this idea of doing a little bit of a maybe 15-20 minute workshop now around feeling an image instead of seeing an image. So I think we'll transition into that, if that sounds good to you guys. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So to kind of get us into that space, I was going to ask you to, let me see if I can, like, take your, if you could just take your hands like this, kind of like a butterfly, and then just rest them on your chest. And then you can close your eyes, if you want.
Is the lighting okay? Should it be less?
Oh, yeah, dim the lights,
Can we
why not?
dim the lights a bit?
And then we'll just take a few deep breaths together. And then you can tap, you can alternate your hands and tap right, left, right, left, right, left on your chest. And just keep breathing deeply. And if you're having thoughts, just see them arising and then let them pass as if they're floating by you on a stream. And focus on your breathing. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. And the next time you breathe out, you can put some sound behind it, and allow yourself to really feel the sound, so you don't have to just, don't worry about what it sounds like, but just let the sound fill your chest and see if you can feel the vibration in your hands. And then for the next few breaths, just make sound. Whatever sound comes out is the right sound. You can stop tapping and just let your hands rest on your chest, and let's continue to make some sounds with these breaths. Feeling the sound as you're making it, letting it be a pleasurable feeling to make sound. ask you, you can slowly open your eyes. I'll ask you to stand up, and you can keep one hand on your chest next to your heart, and then the other hand can come down to your belly. And again, focusing on the sound, what it feels like, as opposed to what it sounds like, because it's all about feeling and just trying to see if you can feel the vibrations in your chest and in your belly. We'll continue and make a few more breaths with these hum sounds. And again, you can put a lot of air into it. It can be very breathy. So let's go again. And now if you want to open your eyes, and maybe I'm going to have this group and this group over here turn towards the back. And then those of you in the front, you can kind of look towards us. So if you guys want to just turn and face those folks in the back, you guys can keep looking towards us, yeah. And then just find someone and see if you can find someone to make eye contact with from where you are. And I guess maybe you guys in the middle too, if you want to turn towards the back, this probably makes more sense. So see if you can find someone that you can make eye contact with. And then just from where you're standing, see if you can hold that eye contact, and don't worry, and try not to look away. It's easy to look away, but hard to stay in the eye contact. And then we'll just do that breathing and the sound making once again while making eye contact. So let's go for it together. Stay connected to yourself and what you're feeling, even as you hold the eye contact. Stay connected to your breath and to your body. And now I'll ask you to turn to someone right near you, maybe a partner standing next to you. This is where it gets a little more awkward, but exciting. So I'll ask you to make eye contact with someone standing right next to you. So does everyone have a partner that they found? Oh yeah, it looks like people have. So see if you can find a partner standing near you. And does anyone not have a partner? All right, good. You guys found some three-person. Great. So, and try to hold the eye contact and try not to talk, because it's easy to talk and laugh, but harder is to hold the eye contact and just stay with that person. So see if you can hold the eye contact, stay connected to your body and your belly, and you guys can do this. You and Verena are going to be partners here. And take a deep breath together, and then we'll just share our breath and our eye contact. ask you to turn and find a new partner, new person near you. And I'm making this really easy on you guys. No intimacy problems. So see if you can find a new person next to you as your partner. Has everyone found somebody? Okay, good, looks like. And if you haven't found, has anyone not found anybody? All right, looks like there's, did you find somebody? Oh, good, okay. And then we'll do it again. So here we go, breathing in deeply. Great, thank you. I'll let you take a moment to talk to your partner if you want to talk about them for a second. All right, now you sat down, but it's not over yet, you guys. I'm going to make you do even more weird stuff. So why don't we have why don't we have all of you come and stand in a line at the back here? And then, gosh, it's a lot of you sitting back there, but could you form a long line standing in front of these chairs here? And then,
you want light back?
Yes,
light?
Great. Oh, good, look at that.
Light back?
What?
Light up?
Oh, maybe we can have let's have the lights up. That's a good idea. So yeah, making a long line here, and then maybe I'll have, maybe the 6 of you can join this line at the front, just standing and facing the back. And then you guys are going to be, do you guys all have iPhones or some kind of phone with a camera on it? Okay, good. We'll get to that in a second. So, so I'm going to have those of you in the back, and those of you here, you'll find someone to kind of make eye contact with in the cross. And obviously you're far enough away that if you can't tell, just pick somebody and stare at them. And then I'm going to have you slowly, we won't start yet, but once you find that person, I'm just going to have you very, very, very slowly start walking towards each other, but so slow. It's almost like if I was watching, I wouldn't perceive it. So, so I'll have, why don't we have all those in the back and all those here. Try to just relax into your body, put your hands at your sides, get a little free. And then really just see if you can, first to start out, just see if you can see almost past your partner, past the whole, like you're almost staring at the horizon. You're looking that far away from you. So just ease into that, stare at the horizon, and we'll do a little practice round. So just start walking as slow as you possibly can. One tiny little step. Breathing, staying in your body, staring at that horizon. Breathing into each moment. Feeling your body centered. Stare far, far, far away. Great, so now we have a foundation. So I'm gonna have you go back, take your step back, since there's not that much room in here and you guys are gonna hit these people. When you inevitably hit them, just kind of start making your way maybe around and through this middle and it'll all work out. So you'll get, yeah, and then those of you in the middle, and we're gonna ask you, well, is everyone okay being recorded? You're always recorded for these talents things anyway, right? Ish. Okay, well, that was a resounding yes. Well, let's just say that for those of you, you guys are gonna be our cinematographers. And I was gonna have you, if you wanna get up and kind of, why don't I have you maybe stand in the circle facing out from the middle to start. And you're going to, the idea is that you will see and you're going to use your camera, but not as a camera per se. Think of it as an extension of your body. And so without looking through your camera, you're going to film these people. And so you might just walk to, you can, if you need to get closer, feel free to get closer to them. But the main goal is for you to feel versus see. So it's about, you're seeing with your body instead of your eyes through your camera. And you can start here. I gave you a starting position just so that you're not necessarily up on everybody, but feel free to kind of like, you can also film these guys. And maybe if people, I just don't know if I'm allowed to say you can record. I want everyone to feel free, but I don't want everyone to be like, God, they're going to record me, and then where's this going to end up on Instagram, and then I'm moaning in Instagram. So how about you hold your camera and you don't necessarily record? I don't know. I just don't know what the rules are about recording. But but holding your camera is an extension of yourself. And so I'm going to have you guys all, you'll take that deep breath, and same with you in the back. And then together, you guys also, just think of yourself, it's kind of this meditation, but so as you're shooting, to really like follow your instincts. If you need to get low, if you need to get high, you guys will have that's very simple action of kind of like staring across at each other and just walking towards one another. But for you guys, you can feel free to kind of dance with what you see and move as fast or as slow as feels necessary. But just remember, you're in a dance with this, and your arm is part of that. Maybe you don't need to see with your arm. Maybe your arm is here or down here, or or maybe you're just walking too. So it's what you feel in your body. So we'll see how this goes. You know what I mean? All right, so everyone, including those of you, why don't I start a few, maybe like, let's get a few of you out here so that you have a little bit more access. And then that way some of you can maybe start with the people in the back. Maybe it's actually helpful for even the videographers to, if you want to also find someone to make eye contact with, that might help you kind of stay into the energy of that person. So if some of you want to face these guys, videographers, some of you face those guys, great. So find someone to look at. This is good. This makes it a little easier. And then for those of you across the room from each other, if you don't have one of these videographers, just kind of make eye contact across, or look into the horizon. That works too. So let's all take a deep breath, relax into the body, hands at our sides, except for the videographers, obviously. And again, videographers, let go of seeing, try not to look. Remember, your hand is just a part of your body right now. And see if you can, everyone, together slowly, as a collective, no one will be the leader, but you will all take your first step together. So here we go. And breathe, and we can begin. And videographers, yeah, keep your camera as just a part of your body. It's just a way of being. You're not seeing, you're feeling. And keep breathing deeply. And now, videographers, see if you can take a risk with what the seeing is. See what your camera, how your camera can move in a new way. Again, thinking about dance and movement and allowing your arm and your eyes to extend beyond your body and beyond your head. And also experiment with rhythm. There's a rhythm that everyone is in right now in the room. But experiment with your own rhythm, that you could maybe vary up that rhythm. See, also play with distance. We tend as humans to be at a certain distance from each other, but see if you can play with that distance, with what's close and what's far. And as you're moving, see if you can make eye contact with one final person, one new person near you. And as you get closer to that person, breathe together, and you can come to a stop. And I thank you, and feel free to thank each other for the beautiful intimacy of this event. I'm so grateful that we got to be here. Thank you so much.